Hello everyone, this is Tom in LA. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing a tag today, a bookshelf tag. I was tagged by Drawn to Stories. He's Finnish and he has a really interesting because out of the box channel. So I would recommend anybody to really visit him. And I apologize to him directly for being so late to compared to the moment when he tagged me. That was probably almost 2 months ago. So here we are. I'm going to try and describe my bookshelves, and for some questions, I'm gonna have to stand up and record my bookshelf. Okay, question number one: how many bookshelves do you have? This is my main bookshelf here in Los Angeles. As you can see, it's I built it with some nice white IKEA shelves. And how many do I have? Except for this one, I have only a couple of other places in this house where I keep my books. But I would say the majority of the books that I've read in my life are not here. They are back in Europe, mainly in Italy, at my parents' house. Question number two: how many books do you have on your bookshelves, and how many books do you think you have in total? So I think, again, here I must have something around maybe 600 or 700 books. In total, I think if I include the books that I have in Italy, we get to maybe 1300, 1400. This is my estimation, also based on what I have been recording on Goodreads. Question number three: how do you organize your books? Well, as you can expect, I really don't very much because of these different locations where my books are as of today. However, in this big bookshelf, I generally have English books here on the main side, central side, and books in Italian on this side, where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shelves. These are more or less all in Italian, and it's a good way to keep them in a certain resemblance of order. Question number 4: what is the oldest book on your bookshelf? Oldest book on my bookshelf is this one, Medieval Towns, Florence. It's a book that was published first in 1900, roughly 121 years ago. The Story of Florence by Edmun Gardner. And this book is a gift, by the way, from a dear friend. I haven't finished it all, but it's full of very beautiful engraving copies as well, and anecdotes, and really the history of the town. So it would be a great book for somebody who is planning to visit Florence as well. Certainly not your stereotypical tourist guide. Question 5: what is the newest book on your bookshelf? That is this one. It's an Italian book called Attraverso la poesia italiana, a trip through Italian poetry. It's basically a new anthology of Italian poetry with a little bit of commentary and analysis. It has some Leopardi, if you know some Italian poets, Manzoni, Alessandro Manzoni, Gabriele D'Annunzio, Umberto Saba, Montale, Caproni. Very, very beautiful. I just received it from Amazon.it, so I'm looking forward to reading it. Question number 6: what is the longest book on your bookshelf? This is also an Italian book. It's called Le Confessioni di un Italiano, The Confession of an Italian, by Ippolito Nievo. It's a beginning of 20th century book. I don't think it's very popular internationally. roughly speaking, it gets a mention in Italian schools, but to be honest, not a lot. And the plot in a 3-second summary is the confessions are an anomalous work. Apparently, they are all the ingredients for a historical novel, historical fiction, a castle, a war, the confused birth of a nation, because we know Italy as a nation was born around 1860, and so it starts the narration from 1870, 1860. And all of these elements has a certain uncertainty and comical angle, almost parodical, almost a parody of genre literature, humoristic. I have to say I haven't read this all in its entirety. I only read maybe 1/3 of it so far. It's in total 1,120 pages. I tend to read faster when I read in Italian, so I'm not too scared about this, but I will probably read it around the end of this year or in 2022. It's definitely the longest one that I have. Question number 7. What is the shortest book on your bookshelf? The shortest book on my bookshelf is this one. It's called Why Redistribution Fails by James Pearson. It's one of a series of books about economy, part of the series called Encounter Broadside, and it's very technical. It doesn't really have political slant, even though it might sound like it does, because it goes into a lot of technicalities, numbers, and the history of the US government's tentative to literally redistribute wealth from the higher echelon of the 1%, the richest people, to the poorest. And a very interesting point that this booklet makes is the United States has one of the most progressive income tax systems in the industrial world. Especially if compared to Europe, this is very true. But instead of effectively redistributing income, this system lines the pockets of providers and advocates who wield great influence in Washington. It's talking about lobbies, but not only lobbies, also medical institutions, doctors, insurances, and so it's a very thin booklet, but as you can imagine, it packs a lot of information, a lot of tech, especially for somebody like me who's not too familiar with the mechanics of federal transfer of funds to states and to different segments of or to different industries. I found it very, very interesting and useful to learn something about this this mysterious country, which is the US. Question number 9. Have you done a bookshelf tour? I have not so far, so here is my bookshelf. As I said, there is not a lot of order in the madness, but these are in the center my English books, and really in terms of organization, there is not a lot of logic. This is a perfect example here, where you can see that on the same shelf we have, let's see, starting from here we have some religious books from Word on Fire, then we have science fiction, literary fiction, we have When Helping Hurts, that's non-fiction, Mad About Trade, that's economy, See No Evil, it's a history of the CIA, history, fiction, biography of Elon Musk, fiction, religion. There is a little bit of everything, really. And I'm also a fan of good graphic novels. Here there is a sample, and here as well. And because of lack of space, this sofa is another place where I'm keeping some of my books temporarily. I know it's kind of funny, but it works for now. Here they are. I got a lot of my 2021 TBR in here. Question number 10. Go on a random number generator and talk about the book that corresponds with that number. The random number generator was provided by the creator of this tag, so I'm going to include everything in my description. So I did that starting from the top left of my bookshelf here, and I found a graphic novel, which is a non-fiction graphic novel titled Tienanmen 1989, Our Shattered Hopes. It's the history of those days in Tienanmen Square in China, as seen from mainly the perspective of somebody who was there among the students who protested in Tienanmen Square. Very beautifully illustrated and really very careful about making an accurate description of what those days meant for students, for China, and in big part for the world as well, because I think I remember, even if I was a child, a kid, I remember Tienanmen, and it had such a vast echo throughout the world as a mediatic event as well. So this is it. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely, yes. It's great either for kids or adults, anybody who's interested in this part of history. Question number 11. Do you have any fan merch or any other decorations on your bookshelf? Very little, to be honest. I have this London decoration, which is a nice memory of the years that I lived in London, and this empty bottle of mint liquor from Berlin. I think is supposed to be a reproduction of the Brandenburg Gate, and this is a remembrance of drinking. Finally, I should tag somebody. Being shamefully late to this tag, I think most people already have done it. So please, if you're watching this video and you haven't done it, I would like to tag you and see a little bit of your bookshelf. Otherwise, I will try to think of somebody and in BookTube and check if you have done it. If you haven't, I'll tag you in my description. Thanks a lot for watching.